Millionaire invited the obese cleaning lady to dance so they'd laugh at her, but she was a professional. Martha Hardy was finishing cleaning the last chandeliers in the ballroom when she felt someone approach. Her trembling hands held the cleaning cloth as she tried to reach the highest parts of the crystal, balancing on the small ladder that creaked with every movement. That was when she heard the arrogant laugh behind her. Preston Sterling, son of the owner of the Metropolitan Elite Club in New York City, watched the scene with a cruel smile on his lips. At 28 years old, he had never worked a single day, living off his family's money while amusing himself by humiliating the employees. "Hey, you there," he said, making Martha hurry down from the ladder. "Yes, Mr. Preston," she replied, lowering her eyes as she always did whenever a member of the Sterling family spoke to her. "Do you dance?" The question caught Martha by surprise. She looked around, thinking he was talking to someone else. "Me, sir? Yes, you. I know tonight we're having the gala here. How about you be my dance partner?" asked Preston, pulling a $3,000 bill from his pocket. "It's just one dance. What do you say?" Behind him, his rich friends whispered and chuckled. Tiffany, Brittany, and Courtney could barely contain their amusement at the situation. It was clear this was just another one of his cruel jokes. "Mr. Preston, I don't know if it would be appropriate," murmured Martha, her cheeks burning with shame. "Why not?" "It's just a dance. $3,000 for a few minutes on the dance floor. You must need the money, don't you?" Martha looked at the bill in her calloused hands. $3,000 represented almost 2 months of her salary as a cleaning lady. Her youngest grandson, little Toby, only 8 years old, needed asthma medication, and she had no way to buy it. "All right, Mr. Preston, I accept." "Perfect," he exclaimed, handing over the money. "The party starts at 8. I'll expect you here, all dressed up nice for the occasion." When Preston walked away with his friends, Martha heard the loud laughter echoing down the hallway. Her heart tightened, but she put the money in the pocket of her worn blue uniform. No matter the humiliation that would come, Toby needed his medicine. 2 hours later, as she was setting up the buffet tables, Martha was approached by Mildred, the cleaning supervisor. The 55-year-old woman had a reputation for being ruthless with the staff. "Martha, I need to talk to you," said Mildred, pulling her aside. "Yes, Mrs. Mildred. I heard Mr. Preston invited you to the party tonight. You can't accept this." "But he already paid me, Mrs. Mildred. I need the money." "It doesn't matter. You're an employee here, not a guest. If you show up at that party, I'll have to fire you. I can't allow a cleaning lady to mingle with the distinguished guests." Tears began to well up in Martha's eyes. She knew Mildred wasn't bluffing. The woman had already fired other employees for much lesser reasons. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, please, Mrs. Mildred, I support 3 grandchildren on my own. My daughter passed away 2 years ago, and now they only have me. Toby is sick and needs medicine. It's just one dance. I don't want to hear it. If you go to that party, don't bother coming back tomorrow. Martha stood in silence, feeling her world collapse around her. How would she explain to her grandchildren that she had lost her job? How would she pay the rent on the small house in the outer projects where they lived? That was when Otis, the club's veteran cook, appeared carrying a tray. "Mrs. Mildred, you're being too hard on Martha. Everyone here knows she's an honest, hard-working person. Stay out of this, Otis. It's a matter of hierarchy. Employees have to know their place. And where does it say her place can't be on a dance floor for one night?" Mildred huffed and walked away, making it clear her decision was final. Otis waited until she was out of sight and approached Martha. "Don't worry about her. You have every right to accept the invitation. But I'll lose my job, Mr. Otis. Maybe it's time you showed who you really are. I've worked at this club for 30 years and I've seen a lot of things. I know you're not just a cleaning lady." Martha looked at him in surprise. Did Otis know about her past? No, it was impossible. She had hidden that part of her life so well. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You don't have to pretend with me, Martha. I've seen you dancing alone in the ballroom after hours when you think no one is watching. You have a special way of moving." Martha felt her heart race. All these years she thought no one had noticed her moments of nostalgia, when she went over the steps she once knew by heart. "That was another time in my life, Mr. Otis. Now I'm just a cleaning lady who needs the job to support her grandchildren." "You used to be more than that, didn't you?" he insisted gently. "The past died along with my dreams. Now I need to think only about the present and my boys." Otis sighed and put his hand on her shoulder. "Listen, my wife kept an old dress in my locker here at work. It's from when she was younger. If you want, you can wear it tonight." "That's not necessary, Mr. Otis. Thank you for your kindness, but I have something suitable at home." Actually, Martha lied. At home she only had simple old clothes. But there was something stored in the back of the wardrobe that she hadn't touched in over 15 years. Would she be able to wear it again? At 7 in the evening, Martha arrived home and found her 3 grandchildren watching TV in the small living room. Connor, 16, was the oldest and had been trying to play the role of the man of the house since their mother had left. Chloe, 12, was a clever girl who helped take care of her younger brother. And Toby, at 8 years old, was a sweet child, but was always sick because of his asthma. "Grandma, you're home early today," said Chloe. "I have to go out again, my loves, but it'll be quick." "Where are you going, Grandma?" asked Connor, always suspicious when anything was out of the ordinary. "It's for work, honey. Eat the sandwiches I left in the fridge and don't wait up for me. Go to bed early." "Are you okay, Grandma?" "Your voice sounds different," observed Chloe, always very attentive to details. "I'm fine, dear. Just a little tired." Martha went to the bedroom and opened the wardrobe with trembling hands. There in the back, wrapped in plastic and stored in a box, was the dress she hadn't seen for so long, a navy blue dress, simple but elegant, that she had bought at a department store decades ago when she still had different hopes for her life. When she took it out of the box, the memories came rushing back like an avalanche. She remembered when she had first worn that dress at a performance at the club where she used to dance when she was young. She remembered the applause, the feeling of lightness as she spun across the dance floor, the certainty that dance would be her life forever. But life had taken a different path. The accident, the knee injury, the unexpected pregnancy, the abandonment by the child's father, the struggle to survive. All of that had been left behind when she had to become just a mother trying to support her daughter on her own. Now, looking at the dress, she wondered if she would still remember the steps. If her body, heavier and more tired, would still respond to the commands that were once natural. "Grandma, what's that?" asked Toby, who had come into the room without her noticing. "It's an old dress, sweetheart." "It's pretty." "And where are you going to wear it?" "To a party, Toby. But it's work, okay?" "Can I come along?" Martha smiled sadly and ran her hand through her grandson's hair. "You can't, sweetheart. It's an adults-only party, but when I get back, I'll bring you a surprise." The boy ran off excitedly, not knowing that the surprise would only be the medicine she'd buy with the money from the humiliation she was about to face. Martha took a shower, fixed her hair as best she could, and put on her navy blue dress. When she looked in the mirror, for a moment she saw the woman she once was. The years had left their marks, the weight had increased, but there was something in her eyes she hadn't seen in a long time. At 8 o'clock sharp, she arrived at the Metropolitan Elite Club. The security guards looked at her suspiciously as she headed for the main entrance. "Where do you think you're going?" one of them asked rudely. "I was invited to the party." "Invited? You?" Martha showed the small piece of paper where Preston had written that she was invited. The guards laughed. "This isn't an official invitation. Must be some kind of joke." "But Mr. Preston gave this to me. He's expecting me." "Look, ma'am, this is a black tie gala. Only high society folks are invited. Maybe you'd better head on home." Martha felt tears threatening to well up. There she was, wearing the only nice dress she owned, being turned away at the door as if she were an intruder. For a moment she thought about giving up and going home, but then she remembered Toby coughing through the night, the expensive medicine, the $3,000 that could make all the difference. "Please, call Mr. Preston. He'll confirm that he invited me." "We're not going to bother Mr. Preston with this. You'd better leave." That's when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "What's the problem here?" It was Preston, wearing an impeccable tuxedo, accompanied by his friends who wore extremely expensive dresses and sparkling jewelry. When they saw Martha, they could barely contain their laughter. "Mr. Preston, this lady says she was invited by you," the guard explained. "She was. She's my special guest tonight." The guards exchanged surprised looks but stepped aside to let her through. Martha followed Preston and the group of friends through the hallway, feeling all the curious stares and some nasty whispers. "Wow, Preston, you didn't mention she was so different," Tiffany commented, trying to stifle a laugh. "That's exactly why it's going to be fun," he replied quietly, thinking Martha couldn't hear. "Are you sure she knows how to dance?" Brittany asked. "Doesn't matter if she does or not. What matters is the show she'll put on." Courtney whispered something in the other girls' ears that made them laugh even louder. Martha pretended not to hear, but every word was like a knife to the chest. She knew exactly what was happening, but she couldn't give up now. When they entered the main hall, Martha was impressed by the beauty of the place. The golden lights from the candelabras she herself had cleaned that afternoon now shone over a crowd of elegantly dressed people. The room was filled with business tycoons, local politicians, artists, and the city's socialites. The orchestra played softly while guests chatted in groups, holding champagne glasses. The tables were decorated with exotic flowers, and the food was served by waiters in impeccable uniforms. "Impressed?" Preston asked mockingly. "It's very beautiful," Martha replied sincerely. "Quite different from the world you live in, isn't it?" Before she could respond, the music stopped and the master of ceremonies stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the traditional opening dance of our gala. As everyone knows, it's customary for the guest of honor to open the dance floor with a special dance." Preston smiled maliciously. It was his 28th birthday, and he had planned everything down to the smallest detail. His intention was to dance with Martha in front of everyone, filming her likely clumsiness and then posting it on social media as a joke. "It's our turn," he said, offering his arm to her. Martha took a deep breath. She felt hundreds of eyes on her, heard the whispers sweeping through the ballroom. Some people were already holding up their phones, ready to record what they thought would be an embarrassing spectacle. "Relax," Preston whispered as he led her to the center of the dance floor. "It's just a dance. Since you must be used to heavy work, you probably have strength in your legs." The orchestra began to play a classic waltz, and Preston placed his right hand on Martha's back, holding her left hand with the other. He expected her to trip on the very first step, but as the music picked up its rhythm, something extraordinary happened. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us folks who are just starting out. Now continuing, Martha not only kept up with the first step, she led it with a gracefulness that left Preston stunned. She moved with a lightness that contrasted with her appearance, gliding across the floor as if she were floating. On the second measure, when Preston tried to lead a simple turn, Martha executed the move with such technical perfection that some guests stopped talking to pay attention. Her legs moved in perfect sync with the music. Her arms maintained the classic ballroom dance posture, and her expression had completely changed. Preston started to sweat. He could barely keep up with her movements, and he realized he was being led instead of leading. His friends' laughter ceased when they saw he was struggling to follow his own partner's rhythm. How did you—" he stammered, trying to keep his balance as she executed a more complex move. But Martha didn't answer. For the first time in 15 years, she was dancing again. Her body had awakened from a long, painful sleep, and every move brought back the muscle memory she thought she had lost forever. The music swelled in intensity, and Martha increased the complexity of her steps. She executed a triple spin that made her navy blue dress twirl elegantly, drawing gasps of admiration from some onlookers. Preston stumbled trying to keep up with her, nearly falling to the floor. "Stop," he whispered, red with embarrassment. "You're embarrassing me." "I thought that's what you wanted," she replied, for the first time since they'd started dancing. In the audience, an elderly woman with grey hair slowly rose from her chair, her eyes wide. Beatrice Vance, 78 years old, had been one of the greatest professional dancers in the United States during the 70s and 80s. She recognized technique when she saw it. "Oh my goodness," Beatrice murmured to the person beside her. "That woman is no amateur." Other guests began to realize that something special was happening. The phones that had been pulled out to record a humiliation were now capturing a genuinely impressive performance. Martha kept dancing with a passion that had lain dormant for decades. Each step took her back to the time when dance was her reason for living. She remembered training 8 hours a day, dreaming of performing at the finest theaters in the country, believing she could make a living from the art she loved. The music reached its climax, and Martha executed a sequence of moves that left the entire ballroom in silence. She made Preston spin around her as if he were a puppet, controlling every movement with the precision of someone who had devoted years to perfecting the technique. When the music ended, there were a few seconds of absolute silence. Preston was breathless, sweating, and completely disconcerted. His friends were so embarrassed they didn't know where to hide their faces. Then the applause began, timid at first, then growing in intensity until the entire ballroom exploded in a standing ovation. Beatrice Vance was the first to stand, clapping with tears in her eyes. "Brava! Brava!" the former dancer shouted. Martha gave a small bow as she had learned in her youth, and when she raised her head, she saw that many people were moved. Some men discreetly wiped their eyes, touched by the beauty and emotion of the performance. Preston was still trying to process what had happened. His cruel joke had turned into a triumph for her and a humiliation for him. The people in the ballroom looked at him with disapproval, realizing that his choice of partner had not been innocent. How do you know how to dance like that?" he asked, still trying to catch his breath. "Life teaches many things, Preston. Some stay tucked away in the heart, waiting for the right moment to surface." Beatrice Vance approached them with determined steps, despite her advanced age. "My dear, where did you learn to dance like that?" Martha hesitated before answering. It had been so long since anyone had asked about her dancing that she no longer knew how to explain. "I learned when I was young, Ma'am, but that was a very long time ago." "A long time ago, nothing. Someone who dances like that never forgets. You were a professional, weren't you?" "For a brief time, but—" "No buts about it," Beatrice interrupted. "You have extraordinary talent. What's your name?" "Martha Hardy." Beatrice paused for a moment as if the name had stirred some distant memory. "Hardy. Hardy. Wait a minute. Aren't you the Martha Hardy who danced at the Lincoln Center in the 90s? Martha's heart raced. Could it be that someone still remembered those days? Yes, that was me. But that was more than 20 years ago." "Of course it was you. I never forget a true dancer. You vanished from the scene overnight. What happened?" Martha felt tears beginning to well up. How could she explain the years of struggle, the hardships, the need to abandon her dreams in order to survive? "Life happened, Mrs. Beatrice. I had to make other choices." "And what do you do now?" The question hurt more than Martha had expected. There she was, at the height of a moment that should have been her triumph, and she would have to admit that she cleaned the very ballrooms where she had once dreamed of dancing professionally. I work here at the club on the cleaning staff." A murmur rippled through the group that had formed around them. Some looked at Martha with a mixture of surprise and pity, others with admiration for her willpower. Beatrice was visibly outraged. "What do you mean you work on the cleaning staff? A dancer of your level cleaning floors?" "Mrs. Beatrice, I need to support my family. My daughter is gone, and I was left with 3 grandchildren. I can't afford the luxury of dreaming about dancing. I need to work to put food on the table." "That's absurd," the elderly woman exclaimed. "You should be teaching, choreographing, not wasting your talent like that." It was at that moment that a deep voice rang out from the back of the ballroom. "What's going on here?" Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was Arthur Sterling, Preston's father and owner of the Metropolitan Elite Club. A 62-year-old man with grey hair and an imposing bearing, known for being a successful businessman, but also fair with his employees. When Arthur saw Martha at the center of the group, elegantly dressed and clearly the focus of attention, he was confused. "Preston, What is your employee doing here dressed as a guest? Dad, I invited her to dance. You invited the cleaning lady to dance at the gala? The shame on Preston's face was evident. He knew he couldn't tell his father that it had all been an attempt at humiliation that backfired. It was a joke that went wrong, Dad. A joke? Beatrice Vance interjected into the conversation. Mr. Arthur, your son doesn't know who he was messing with. This woman is one of the most talented dancers I've ever seen in my life. Arthur looked at Martha more carefully. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't quite place what it was. Do you dance professionally? I did. A long time ago, Martha replied softly. She was a dancer at the Lincoln Center, Beatrice added. A top-tier artist who, for some absurd reason, is working in cleaning instead of being on stage. Arthur approached Martha, examining her face more closely. Suddenly his eyes widened, as if he had seen a ghost. My God, you're the Martha from the ballet? You know me. Of course I do. You danced at the opening performance of my first business venture more than 20 years ago. It was at the Lincoln Center, a tribute to the city's business leaders. You gave an unforgettable performance. Martha vaguely remembered that performance. It had been one of the last ones before the accident that would change her life forever. I do remember. It was a beautiful night. Beautiful. It was spectacular. I never forgot your performance. But you disappeared after that. What happened? Martha hesitated. It was hard to talk about the most painful time of her life in front of so many people. I had an accident, Mr. Arthur. I injured my knee and couldn't dance professionally anymore. Then I got pregnant, ended up alone, and had to make do however I could. And how did you end up here? I needed work. You gave me this opportunity 5 years ago, when I was desperate. I'm grateful for that. Arthur shook his head, visibly moved. I didn't know. If I had known who you were, you treated me with dignity even without knowing. I've always been respected here. But you should be teaching dance, not cleaning halls. Dreams don't always come true the way we expect, Mr. Arthur. It was at that moment that Mildred, the cleaning supervisor, appeared in the hall with her face red with rage. She had found out that Martha had disobeyed her orders and shown up at the party. Martha Hardy, she shouted, crossing the hall without caring about the guests. I warned you what would happen if you came to this party. Silence took over the room. Everyone watched the woman approaching with evident fury. Mrs. Mildred, please, Martha tried. There's no please about it. You disobeyed a direct order. You're fired. No need to come back tomorrow. Wait a minute, Arthur intervened. What is this about, Mildred? Mr. Arthur, I warned this employee that she couldn't attend the party. I said she'd be fired if she disobeyed. An employee has to know their place. Arthur looked at Mildred with an expression she had never seen before. Her place? And what would her place be, Mildred? With all due respect, Mr. Arthur, she's a cleaning lady. She can't mingle with the gala guests. It's a matter of protocol. Protocol? Beatrice Vance interjected again. What protocol is that keeps an artist from attending a cultural event? An artist? Mildred laughed sarcastically. She's a fat cleaning lady who can't even speak properly. An indignant murmur spread through the group of guests. Several people were visibly offended by Mildred's prejudiced comment. Arthur approached the supervisor with a serious face. Mildred, you're fired. Leave my establishment immediately. What? Mr. Arthur, I've worked here for 15 years, and in 15 years you haven't learned to treat people with respect. Leave now before I call security. Mildred looked around for support, but everyone stared at her with disapproval. She left the room humiliated, muttering insults under her breath. Arthur turned to Martha. I apologize for my employee's behavior. That should never have happened. No need to apologize, Mr. Arthur. She was only doing what she thought was right. No, she wasn't. She was being prejudiced and cruel. He paused and looked into her eyes. Martha, I'd like to make you a proposal. What kind of proposal? How about setting aside the cleaning and going back to teaching dance? I'm thinking of opening a dance school here at the club. Would you be interested in being the director? Martha was speechless. After so many years cleaning rooms, someone was offering her the chance to return to the world of dance. "Mr. Arthur, that's very generous, but I don't know if I'm still capable of teaching. It's been so long. I just watched you dance. If anyone still has that ability, it's you." Beatrice Vance clapped her hands excitedly. "Excellent idea. I can help with the contacts, introduce you to the best teachers in the city. We can put together something truly special." Preston, who had stayed quiet throughout the entire conversation, finally spoke up. "Dad, you can't be serious. She's just an employee." Arthur looked at his son with disappointment. "Preston, you crossed the line today. You invited a woman just to humiliate her publicly, and on top of that, you show this unacceptable prejudice." "I didn't mean to humiliate her. It was just a joke." "A joke? Betting on someone else's misfortune is your idea of fun?" Tiffany, Brittany, and Courtney tried to hide behind the other people, ashamed for having taken part in Preston's cruel plan. "You three as well," Arthur addressed his son's friends. "Do you think it's funny to laugh at other people's suffering?" The three women lowered their heads, not knowing what to say. Martha, seeing the awkward situation, tried to ease the tension. "Mr. Arthur, maybe it's best I go home. I've already caused too much trouble." "Trouble?" Beatrice laughed. "My dear, you're the only good thing that's happened at this party. You can't leave now." "Mrs. Beatrice is right," Arthur agreed. "The party is just getting started. Why don't you dance a little more? I'm sure many people would love to be your partner." Several men in the room nodded positively, confirming their interest in dancing with her. Martha looked around and saw friendly, admiring faces. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly appreciated. "I would be honored," she replied. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out." Now continuing. The orchestra began to play again, and Martha spent the next hour dancing with different partners. Each dance was a rediscovery, a renewed connection with the passion that had defined her youth. The guests took turns for the chance to dance with her, impressed by her technique and grace. During a break, Beatrice approached her again. "Martha, I need to ask you something personal. What really happened that made you leave professional dance?" Martha sighed. She knew the moment would come to tell the whole truth. "It was in 1998. I was 25 years old and at the peak of my career. I had just signed a contract with a dance company in London, in the United Kingdom. It was the dream of my life to make it professionally in Europe. And what happened? 2 weeks before I was set to travel, I was rehearsing a complex choreography when I landed badly during a jump. I tore ligaments in my right knee. The doctors said I could walk normally again, but that I would never have the stability needed for professional dance." Helena shook her head sympathetically. "And then? Then I found out I was pregnant. The child's father abandoned me when he heard about the accident, said he didn't want to be with a broken woman. I lost the contract in London. I lost my savings to the medical treatment, and suddenly I found myself alone, unemployed, and expecting a baby." "What a terrible situation. I thought about giving up on everything, Mrs. Beatrice. But when my daughter was born, I found strength I didn't even know I had. I worked whatever jobs came up to support her, cleaning, cooking, laundry, whatever it took." "And her? Your daughter?" Martha's eyes filled with tears. Tiffany was a sweet, smart girl. She grew up watching her mother fight to give her the best. She managed to graduate high school, found a good boyfriend. But then came an unplanned pregnancy, then another, then another. 3 children in 5 years. And what happened to her? 2 years ago, Tiffany was walking home from work when she was hit by a drunk driver. She left 3 young children with no one in the world but me. That's when I came to work here at the club. I needed a steady job to take care of my grandchildren. Helena was silent for a few moments, absorbing the story. "Martha, you're an extraordinary woman. You've been through so much suffering and still kept your dignity, your strength, and your talent intact. Sometimes I don't feel strong. Sometimes I think I failed as a mother, as a grandmother, as a woman. Don't say that. Look around you. See how people admire you. You didn't lose your gift. You just kept it dormant for a while." At that moment, Mr. Arthur approached the two of them. "Martha, I was talking to Helena about the dance school. I'd like to make a more concrete proposal. I'm listening. How about we turn the smaller ballroom in the club into a dance academy? You would be the lead instructor, and we could offer classes for all ages, from children to seniors who want to learn. Mr. Arthur, that would be wonderful, but I couldn't accept. Why not? I need a steady income to support my grandchildren. I can't risk it on a venture that might not work out. How about we start with a fixed salary, say, 3 times what you make cleaning, plus a percentage of the school's profits? Martha nearly fainted. 3 times her current salary would be enough to give her grandchildren a much better life. You would really do that? Of course, it's an investment. I'm sure your dance school will be a success. Helena clapped her hands enthusiastically. And I can bring some students from my old school. I know several people who would love to learn from you. Martha was so moved she could barely speak. I don't know how to thank you for this opportunity. No need to thank me, said Mr. Arthur. Actually, I'm the one who should be thankful for having a professional of your caliber in my establishment. Preston, who had been watching the whole conversation from a distance, approached the group. Dad, can I speak to Martha in private? Mr. Arthur looked at his son with suspicion. Only if she wants to. Martha nodded, curious to hear what the young man had to say. They stepped away from the group, and Preston began to speak with a humility she had never seen in him before. Martha, I need to apologize for what I did today. You don't need to apologize, Preston. Everything turned out fine. No, I do. I invited you to dance thinking it would be fun to watch you embarrass yourself. It was cruel and prejudiced of me. Martha was surprised by the young man's honesty. Why are you telling me this? Because for the first time in my life I understood what real shame is. Not the shame of stumbling during a dance, but the shame of being a bad person. You're not a bad person, Preston. Just far too spoiled. It's the same thing. I've never had to fight for anything, never gone through hard times, never cared about the suffering of others. But today, seeing your story, seeing your dignity, even while being treated badly, I realized how small I am. Martha looked at the young man with a new perspective. Perhaps there was still hope for him. We can all change, Preston. It's never too late to become a better person. Do you forgive me? I already have. But now you need to forgive yourself and use this experience to grow. Preston extended his hand to her. Would you like to dance with me again? This time as real people, not as a cruel game? Martha hesitated for a moment, but then smiled and accepted his hand. With pleasure. They returned to the dance floor, and this time it was completely different. Preston genuinely tried to follow her steps, and although he wasn't a talented dancer, he was clearly making an effort to do his best. When the music ended, he sincerely thanked her. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Everyone deserves a second chance, Preston. The party went on until late in the night, and Martha danced with many different people. Each dance made her feel more alive, more connected to who she truly was beneath all the years of struggle and suffering. Around midnight, Mrs. Beatrice approached her. Martha, I need to leave, but before I go, I want to give you something. She handed an elegant card to Martha. This is the phone number of a friend of mine who runs the largest dance school in New York City. He's always looking for qualified teachers. If for any reason things don't work out here at the club, you have that option. Mrs. Beatrice, you barely know me, and you're already doing so much for me. My dear, at our age we learn that true talent is too rare to be wasted. You have a gift, and it's our responsibility to help that gift bloom again. The two women embraced, and Martha felt that she had gained not just a professional opportunity, but also a friend. Mr. Arthur approached when he saw Mrs. Beatrice saying goodbye. Martha, how about we discuss the details of the school tomorrow? Can you stop by my office at 2 in the afternoon? Of course, Mr. Arthur, I'll be there. And no need to call me Mr. Arthur. Just, Arthur is fine. Martha smiled. It was strange to imagine that the next day she would be sitting in his office as an equal, not as a subordinate employee. When the party ended, Preston offered her a ride home. Can I take you home? Thank you, but I'll take the bus. I'm used to it. Please, let me do this. It's the least I can do after today. Martha ended up accepting. During the drive to her house in the outer projects, They talked more deeply than they ever had before. "Martha, can I ask you a personal question?" "Go ahead." "Have you never felt anger? Anger at having lost your dreams, at having to work jobs that weren't right for you?" Martha thought for a moment before answering. "I have felt it, Preston, many times, especially in the early years, when I saw other dancers achieving what I couldn't. But I learned that anger only hurts the one who feels it. I preferred to use my energy to take care of my family." "How did you manage to keep hope?" "By looking into my grandchildren's eyes. They needed a strong grandmother, not a bitter woman. So I chose to be strong." When they arrived at Martha's house, Preston was surprised by the simplicity of the place. It was a small little house in a working-class neighborhood, but it was well kept and clean. "Would you like to come in and meet my grandchildren?" "I don't want to intrude. They must be sleeping. Connor always stays up until I get home. He worries about me." They entered the house, and Connor was indeed in the living room, watching TV and waiting for his grandmother to arrive. "Hey, Grandma, I thought you'd take longer." "Connor, this is Preston. Preston, my grandson, Connor." The boy greeted Preston politely, but Martha noticed a certain wariness in his eyes. "How was your work today, Grandma?" "It was different. Tomorrow I'll tell you everything. Now go to sleep. You have school tomorrow." Connor obeyed, but before leaving the living room, he whispered in his grandmother's ear, "Is that man your boss? Are you having trouble at work?" "No, my love. Everything is fine, even better than fine." After Connor left, Preston commented, "He seems like a good boy." "He is, very responsible for his age. He had to grow up too fast." "And the others?" "Chloe and Toby are sleeping. They're normal kids, playful, but they miss their mother very much." "That must be hard for them. And for me, too. Sometimes I don't know if I'm doing everything right, if I'm being good enough to replace the parents they lost." Preston was silent for a moment, reflecting on everything he had discovered about Martha's life that night. "You're an incredible woman. I never imagined someone could go through so much and still maintain their dignity and kindness." "Life teaches things that school doesn't, Preston. You'll still learn many important things." "I hope so. I want to be a better person." They said goodbye at the door, and Martha watched his car drive away. What a strange night it had been. She had left home expecting humiliation and was returning with the possibility of a new life. The next morning, Martha woke up with the feeling that she had dreamed everything. Had she really danced at a gala? Had she really received an offer to direct a dance school? But when she looked at the navy blue dress carefully hanging in the closet and saw Beatrice's card on the bedside table, she knew it had all been real. The grandchildren woke up excited to find out how their grandmother's night had been. "Grandma, you went out looking very elegant last night. Where did you go?" asked Chloe. "I went to a party, my loves, and very important things happened there." "What kind of things?" Connor wanted to know. Martha gathered her 3 grandchildren at the small kitchen table and told them, being careful not to scare the children, about the events of the previous night. "So you're going to be a dance teacher, Grandma?" asked Toby, his eyes shining. "It seems so, my love. If everything works out, our life will get a little easier." "And will we be able to get Toby's medicine without you worrying?" asked Chloe, always very observant. "Yes, dear. And maybe we can even move to a bigger house." Connor, always more skeptical due to the premature responsibility he carried, asked the question Martha knew was coming. "Grandma, what if it goes wrong? What if that man changes his mind?" "Then we'll manage, like we always have. But this time I feel things are going to work out." At 2 in the afternoon, Martha arrived at Arthur's office dressed in her best formal outfit. It was a simple set, but clean and well pressed. Arthur received her with a warm smile. "Martha, come in, please. Would you like some coffee?" "Thank you, Arthur. I'm a little nervous." "You don't need to be nervous. We're partners now." They spent the next hour discussing the details of the dance school. Arthur had prepared a contract that was much more generous than Martha had imagined. In addition to the fixed salary, she would be entitled to a percentage of tuition, paid vacation and health insurance for her and her grandchildren. "Arthur, this is very generous." I'm afraid I won't be able to live up to the expectations. Martha, last night I saw you turn an attempt at humiliation into an unforgettable performance. If this isn't living up to expectations, I don't know what is. But running a school is different from dancing at a party. That's why I'm going to arrange a management course for you, and Beatrice has already offered to help with the educational side. You won't be alone in this. Martha signed the contract with trembling hands. For the first time in 20 years, she felt that her professional life was aligned with her talents and passions. When do we start? She asked. How about next Monday? That gives you a week to prepare and for us to talk with potential students. Perfect. When Martha left Arthur's office, she could hardly believe that it was all really happening. She decided to walk a little through the city centre before heading home, taking the time to process the changes that were coming. On the street, she passed a clothing store window and saw herself reflected in the glass. For a moment, instead of the tired, worried cleaning woman who looked at herself in the mirror every morning, she saw a dance teacher about to begin a new phase of life. When she got home, she found a surprise waiting for her. Beatrice Vance was in the living room, talking with the grandchildren and drinking coffee that Connor had made. Mrs. Beatrice, what are you doing here? I came to meet your family and bring some news, the elderly woman replied with a mysterious smile. What news? I talked to my friend from the dance school in New York City. He was very interested in your story and would like to meet you. But I just accepted Arthur's proposal. Hold on, it's not for you to work there. It's to establish a partnership. Some advanced students from his school could come and do workshops with you, and you could send your best students there to refine their skills. Martha was impressed by how quickly things were developing. Mrs. Beatrice, how can I thank you for all this? By being the exceptional teacher that I know you are. Chloe, who had been listening to the conversation, approached Beatrice. Do you really think our grandma is special? Very special, dear. Your grandmother has a rare talent and an even rarer willpower. Grandma always dances alone in the backyard when she thinks we're not watching, Toby said innocently. Martha blushed. Toby? It's true, Chloe confirmed. She puts on soft music on the radio and dances. It's really beautiful to watch. Beatrice smiled, moved. See? True talent doesn't hide. Even through all those difficult years, you kept dance alive inside you. Connor, who had been quiet until then, asked a question that surprised everyone. Mrs. Beatrice, do you think our grandma can teach us to dance too? Of course she can. Why don't we start right now? Martha, how about a private lesson for your grandchildren? Martha looked at the 3 hopeful faces of her grandchildren and felt her heart fill with joy. Do you really want to learn? Yes, the 3 shouted in unison. Then let's go to the backyard. That's where I've always practiced anyway. The small backyard of the house turned into an improvised dance studio. Beatrice put on some soft music on the old stereo, and Martha began teaching basic steps to the grandchildren. Connor, despite his age, proved to be surprisingly graceful. Chloe had a natural sense of rhythm, and Toby, even with his asthma, had fun trying to keep up with the simplest steps. Grandma, you're a really good teacher, said Chloe. You really are, Toby agreed. Why did you never teach us before? Martha stopped for a moment, reflecting on her grandson's question. I thought I had lost that gift, my love. I thought I was no longer capable of teaching. But you always knew, Connor observed with his precocious maturity. You were just afraid. Her teenage grandson's observation touched Martha's heart deeply. He was right. She had always kept the dance alive within herself, but the fear of failure, the need for survival, and the pain of her losses had created barriers she herself had built. Beatrice, who was watching the scene with tears in her eyes, approached Martha. This backyard is going to be too small for what's coming, she said prophetically. In the following days, news about the club's new dance school spread quickly through the city. Arthur had used his contacts to promote the project, and Beatrice had mobilized her network of friends in the dance world. On Friday, 2 days before the official opening of the school, Martha arrived at the club to find a line of people interested in signing up. There were children accompanied by their parents, excited teenagers, adults who had always wanted to learn to dance, and even some senior citizens who wanted to exercise in an elegant way. Arthur found her watching the commotion with a mix of joy and nervousness. "See? I told you it would be a success. Arthur, there are so many people. Do you think I can handle it?" "You won't be alone. I hired 2 assistants to help you, and Beatrice has already offered to teach some special classes on Saturdays." Among the people in line, Martha recognized some familiar faces. Otis, the cook who had been kind to her, was there with his wife. "Mr. Otis, what are you doing here?" "My wife has always wanted to learn ballroom dancing," he answered with a smile. "And there's no one better to teach than you. Thank you for your trust." Further down the line, she saw Tiffany, one of Preston's friends who had laughed at her on the night of the party. "Tiffany, are you interested in dance lessons?" The young woman turned red, clearly embarrassed. "Martha, I wanted to apologize for my behavior at the party. It was unforgivable." "You're already forgiven, dear. I would really love to learn from you. Watching you dance that night made me realize how beautiful and important dance really is. It will be a pleasure to have you as a student." Throughout that week, Martha worked tirelessly preparing the school's space, organizing schedules, planning lessons, and getting to know the future students. For the first time in many years, she went to bed tired, but with a gratifying kind of exhaustion. On opening Monday, she arrived at the club 2 hours early, dressed in an elegant yet practical outfit that Beatrice had helped her pick out. The mirror in the hall reflected a transformed woman. She was still the same Martha, but there was a new light in her eyes. The first class was children, and Martha was surprised by how naturally she connected with the little ones. She turned dance steps into games, making the children learn without even realizing it. "Now let's be little birds flying," she would say, teaching arm movements. "And now let's be flowers swaying in the wind," to teach hip movements. The children laughed and had fun, and the parents watching were delighted by Martha's creative methodology. The second class was beginner adults, and it included several people she never imagined would be interested in dance. There was a retired lawyer who had always wanted to impress his wife, a shy homemaker seeking self-esteem, a young businessman who needed to prepare for his wedding. "Dance isn't about being perfect," Martha explained to the class. "It's about expressing yourself and feeling good about who you are. Everyone has their own rhythm, and that's what makes dance beautiful." At the end of the first day, Arthur showed up to see how things had gone. "How was your first day as a teacher?" "It was magical," Martha answered, her eyes shining. "I had forgotten how rewarding it is to teach, to see people discovering that they can do things they never imagined." "And the students? What did they think?" "I think they liked it." "Several people have already asked about extra classes and advanced courses." "Great. That means we're going to need to expand faster than we thought." In the following weeks, the dance school became a true success. Classes were full, there was a waiting list for the lessons, and Martha needed to hire 2 more assistants to keep up with the demand. What was most rewarding for her were the transformations she saw in her students. Shy children became more confident, stressed adults found a way to relax, and seniors discovered they could still learn new things. 1 month after the school opened, Beatrice organized a special presentation to show the students' progress. The club's main hall was turned into a small theater, with families watching proudly. Martha choreographed a performance where each class showed what they had learned. The children danced like butterflies, the teenagers put on an energetic modern dance number, the adults presented an elegant waltz, and the seniors surprised everyone with a soft tango full of personality. At the end of the presentation, Beatrice stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, 2 months ago, this extraordinary woman was cleaning this very hall, where she now runs one of the most respected dance schools in the city. Martha Hardy taught us that true talent never dies. It only waits for the right moment to be reborn." The audience rose for a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Martha, deeply moved, looked at her grandchildren in the front row. Connor had tears in his eyes, Chloe was clapping enthusiastically, and Toby was yelling, "That's my grandma," to anyone who would listen. After the presentation, many people approached Martha to congratulate her. Among them was an elegant lady she didn't recognize. "Teacher Martha, my name is Vivian Thorne. I'm the Cultural Director of the city's Department of Cultural Affairs." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Vivian." I came here today at Beatrice's invitation, and I was impressed by the work you're doing. I'd like to make you a proposal. What kind of proposal? The city is launching an arts school program for underprivileged youth. We'd like to invite you to direct the dance project. Martha was speechless. 2 months ago she was cleaning floors, and now she was being invited to direct a city program. It would be parallel work to the club's school, Vivian explained. You could keep doing both. What do you think? I need to talk to Arthur and my family, but I'm very honored by the invitation. Think it over carefully. We have resources to serve more than 200 underprivileged children a month. That night, Martha talked with her grandchildren about the new proposal. Grandma, does this mean you're going to help poor kids like we used to be? Asked Chloe. Yes, sweetheart. Kids who don't have money to pay for dance classes, but who have talent and the will to learn. Just like you taught us in the backyard, said Toby, smiling. Exactly, except now it would be official, with its own space and city resources. Connor, always thoughtful, made an important observation. Grandma, are you sure it won't be too much work? You're already running around so much with the club school? That's a valid concern, Connor. But think about it. How many children could discover a talent they never imagined having? How many could find in dance a way to express themselves and grow? Grandma always thinks of others first, murmured Chloe, hugging her grandmother. The next day, Martha went to Arthur to talk about the city proposal. Arthur, I received an offer from the city that I'd like to discuss with you. Arthur listened attentively while she explained the Department of Cultural Affairs project. Martha, this is fantastic. Of course you should accept. But I don't want to hurt the school here. On the contrary, this will elevate our school's prestige even further. Having a teacher recognized by the city government will only increase our credibility. Are you sure? Absolutely. Actually, we could form a partnership. The most talented children from the city program could receive scholarships here at the club. Arthur's generosity continued to surprise Martha. She accepted the city's proposal, and within 2 weeks she was running 2 dance schools simultaneously. The city program operated out of an old renovated warehouse downtown. When Martha saw the space for the first time, with peeling walls and uneven floors, her heart sank. How could she turn that into a suitable place for dance? But Arthur and Beatrice joined forces to help her. Arthur secured donations of mirrors and sound equipment, while Beatrice brought contacts for a quick and inexpensive renovation. Preston showed up at the warehouse on a Saturday afternoon, dressed in simple clothes and carrying tools. I came to help with the renovation, he announced. Preston? Martha was surprised. What are you doing here? I thought I could make myself useful for something good, instead of just wasting money on nonsense. He spent the entire weekend helping paint walls, install mirrors, and organize the space. Martha watched his dedication with growing admiration. Why are you doing this? She asked during a break. Because I want to prove to myself that I can be a better person, and because I see how much this means to you. When the city school opened, 50 underprivileged children showed up on the first day. They came from different neighborhoods. Some had to walk miles to get there, but they all arrived with their eyes shining with anticipation. Among those children was Lily, an 11-year-old girl who lived with her grandmother in a nearby slum. She was shy and thin, wore patched clothes, but when Martha began teaching the first steps, something special happened. Teacher, can I try that harder move? Lily asked after the 3rd class. Martha demonstrated a more complex turn, and Lily executed it perfectly on the first try. My God, girl, you have an amazing natural talent. My grandmother says I've been dancing since I learned to walk, Lily said, smiling. Martha saw in Lily a reflection of herself in her youth, the same passion, the same natural talent, the same determination despite the hardships. Lily, would you like to have extra lessons? I can teach you twice a week instead of once. Really, teacher? But I don't have money to pay for extra lessons. Who said anything about paying? You have too much talent to waste. I'll teach you for free. From then on, Lily became a constant presence in Martha's life. The girl always arrived an hour before class and left an hour after, making the most of every minute to learn new movements. 3 months after the opening of both schools, Beatrice brought news that would change everything again. "Martha, I have a surprise for you," she said, walking excitedly into the club school. "What is it this time, Mrs. Beatrice?" Martha asked, laughing. "Remember when I said I had contacts in Europe?" "I remember." "Well, I spoke with a friend who works at a dance school in Paris. They're organizing a cultural exchange and would like to bring some American teachers over for a special workshop." Martha stopped organizing the equipment. "And what does that have to do with me?" "Everything. They want you as one of the representatives from the United States." "Mrs. Beatrice, that's impossible. I can't travel to Europe. I have my grandchildren, the schools. It's only for 2 weeks, and the trip is fully paid, plus a generous stipend." Martha was tempted, but also frightened. Traveling to Europe had been her dream when she was young, but now it seemed impossible to make come true. "I need to think this over calmly." "Of course, but don't take too long. They need an answer within a week." That night, Martha talked to her grandchildren about the possibility of the trip. "Grandma, you have to go," Chloe exclaimed. "It's the chance of a lifetime." "But who's going to take care of you?" "I can take care of my siblings," Connor said seriously. "I already do it whenever you work late." "Connor, it's only 2 weeks, but I'd be very worried." "Grandma," Toby chimed in, "you've always taken care of us. Now it's our turn to take care of you for a change." The children's wisdom touched Martha's heart. They were right. All these years she had devoted herself exclusively to her family, forgetting about herself. The next day, she went to Arthur to tell him about the offer. "Arthur, I need to talk to you about a possible trip." "A trip where?" Martha explained the whole situation, and Arthur was genuinely moved. "Martha, that's incredible. Of course you should accept." "But what about the schools? I can't abandon the students. 2 weeks won't make a difference. Beatrice and I can coordinate the activities while you're away." "You do that?" "With the greatest pleasure. Seeing you achieve international recognition will be an honor for all of us." With Arthur's and her grandchildren's support, Martha accepted the invitation to Paris. The following 2 weeks were a whirlwind of preparations, paperwork, and anxiety. On the eve of the trip, the students from both schools organized a surprise farewell party. The hall was decorated with flags of the United States and France, and each class prepared a special performance for the teacher. Lily, the talented girl from the public school, had prepared a solo choreography especially for the occasion. When she danced, perfectly reproducing Martha's teachings, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. "Teacher," Lily said as she finished, "this dance is to thank you for everything you've taught me. When you come back, I want to be even better." Martha hugged the girl with tears in her eyes. "Lily, you're already perfect just the way you are. Keep practicing, and I'll come back full of new things to teach you." The trip to Paris was a transformative experience for Martha. For the first time in over 20 years, she was in an environment completely dedicated to dance, surrounded by professionals who shared her passion. During the workshop, she had the chance to learn new techniques, exchange experiences with teachers from various countries, and above all, fully reconnect with her identity as an artist. On the last day of the workshop, the director of the French school approached her. "Martha, we've been very impressed with your work. I'd like to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "How would you like to come work here in Paris for a year? We offer an excellent salary, housing, and a work visa." It was the opportunity she had missed 20 years earlier, offered again by fate. But now the circumstances were completely different. "That's very generous. But I have a family in the United States who needs me." "They could come too. We'd arrange everything for your move." Martha was tempted for a moment. Living off dance in Europe, giving her grandchildren an international education, starting her life over in a place where no one knew about her past failures. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Lily's face and the faces of the other 50 underprivileged children who depended on her classes. She saw Connor taking on adult responsibilities, Chloe growing up without her grandmother's constant presence, Toby struggling with asthma in a strange country. "Thank you for the opportunity, but my place is in the United States. I have important work there that I can't abandon." "Are you sure?" "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm sure. My mission now is different from the one I had when I was young." When she returned to the United States, Martha was welcomed at the airport by her grandchildren, Arthur, Beatrice, and several students. There were, Welcome back teacher posters and flowers everywhere. How was it, Grandma? The grandchildren asked in unison. It was wonderful, but the best part was knowing you were all waiting for me. Preston was in the welcome group, and Martha noticed a significant change in him. He was more mature, more serious, less arrogant. Preston, what a surprise to see you here. Martha, a few things happened while you were away that I need to tell you. What happened? I started volunteering at the public school, helping with the administration, organizing events, things like that. Martha was genuinely surprised. Really? And how has it been? Difficult, but rewarding. I never imagined volunteer work could be so fulfilling. And your father? What does he think about it? At first he was surprised, but now he's proud. He said, I'm finally doing something useful with my life. Over the following weeks, Martha implemented everything she had learned in Paris at both schools. The classes became even more dynamic, the students more motivated, and the quality of teaching improved noticeably. Lily continued to stand out among all the students. In 6 months of classes, she had evolved from a beginner into a dancer with nearly professional technique. Teacher, may I speak with you? Lily asked after a particularly intense class. Of course, dear, what is it? My grandmother is sick. She needs surgery, but we don't have the money to pay for it. Martha's heart tightened. She knew that situation well, the one of having to choose between health and survival. What kind of surgery? Heart surgery. The doctors say it's urgent, but it's very expensive. And is there any way to have it done through county hospital? There is, but the waiting list is very long. The doctor said my grandmother might not have time to wait. Martha remained silent, thinking of a solution. She didn't have much money saved, but she couldn't let that child suffer. Lily, I'm going to talk to some people to see if we can get help for your grandmother. You would really do that? Of course I would. You're special, Lily, and special people deserve special care. That very afternoon, Martha sought out Arthur to tell him about Lily's situation. Arthur, I know it's a lot to ask, but do you know any cardiologist who could help a family in need? I know several. What is it about? Martha told Arthur the whole story about Lily, and Arthur was visibly moved. Of course we'll help. I'll talk to a friend of mine who's a cardiologist. He'll certainly do the surgery at a discount or even for free. Arthur, you never stop surprising me with your generosity. Martha, you've changed many things around here. Preston is becoming a better person. I'm getting more involved with social causes. The employees are happier. It's natural that I want to give back. By the end of the week, Lily's grandmother was admitted to one of the best private hospitals in the city, about to undergo heart surgery with the best doctor Arthur had managed to find. The businessman had covered all the costs. Teacher, how can I thank you for what you did for my grandmother? Lily asked with tears in her eyes. By dancing, Lily. Sing. Keep dancing and being that wonderful girl you are. The surgery was a success, and Lily's grandmother made a full recovery. But what no one expected was for her to show up at the dance school a few weeks later. Teacher Martha? Called out a woman of about 70 from the door of the public school. Yes, that's me. My name is Gladys. I'm Lily's grandmother. I came to thank you in person for what you did for our family. Mrs. Gladys, I'm happy to know you're doing well. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you, but I also came here for another reason. What is it? I want to sign up for your classes. Martha was surprised. Dance classes? At your age? Why not? Didn't you tell my granddaughter that it's never too late to learn? I did say that, but... Teacher, at 70 years old, I discovered I almost left this world without having danced a single time in my life. Now that I have a second chance, I don't want to waste it. Martha smiled, moved. It will be an honor to have you as a student, Mrs. Gladys. From that day on, Gladys became the most dedicated student in the seniors class. She always arrived on time, practiced at home, and encouraged other people her age to join the classes. In no time, the senior class became one of the liveliest at the school. There were ladies in their 60s, 70s, and 80s dancing with such contagious joy, proving that age is no limit for new dreams. Martha, said Beatrice one afternoon, I'm thinking about organizing a dance festival to showcase the work of all the classes. What kind of festival? A big event at the Lincoln Center. Each school would present its best choreographies. Mrs. Beatrice, that would be wonderful but very expensive. Leave the financial side to me. I have contacts who can sponsor the event. The festival was scheduled for December, giving the schools 3 months to prepare. Martha worked tirelessly creating choreographies that highlighted the best of each class. The children's class would present a dance about butterflies. The teen class would do a contemporary number about overcoming challenges. The adult class would show a classic waltz, and the seniors class would surprise everyone with a tango. During rehearsals, Martha discovered that several people had developed special friendships through dance. Gladys, Lily's grandmother, had become close friends with Beatrice Vance, despite the social difference between them. Preston continued as a volunteer and had become especially close to the children from the public school. He organized games during breaks, helped with homework, and even learned some basic steps so he could help during classes. "Preston, you've changed a lot," Martha commented during a rehearsal. "Dance changes people, doesn't it?" he replied, smiling. "It's not the dance, it's the people around the dance. You discovered that you're good at helping others. I discovered that it makes me happier than anything I've ever bought or achieved." 1 week before the festival, something happened that shook all the preparations. Lily showed up at the public school crying her heart out. "Lily, what happened?" Martha asked, running to hug the girl. "Teacher, my grandmother got bad news from the doctors." Martha's heart turned cold. "What is it?" "They found out that her heart condition is more serious than they thought. She's going to need another surgery, more expensive and more dangerous." "And what did the doctors say about the prognosis?" "They said that without the surgery, she could have serious complications, but with the surgery, there are risks too." Martha hugged Lily tighter. "We'll figure something out, sweetheart. We're not going to leave your grandmother without treatment." "But teacher, I can't ask Mr. Arthur for help again. He was already so generous the first time." "Who said you're going to ask? I will." Martha went to see Arthur that same afternoon, but found out he was going through financial difficulties of his own. One of his companies had faced serious problems, and his capital was tied up. "Martha, I'd love to help again, but right now things are hard for me too." "I understand, Arthur. I'll find another way." "Wait. What if we organized a charity event? We can move up some festival performances and sell tickets to help Gabriella's family." Arthur's idea was good, but there was little time and it would be hard to organize something big enough to raise the needed amount. That was when Preston had an unexpected idea. "Dad, what if we use my savings?" Arthur looked at his son, surprised. "Your savings?" "I have money sitting in my savings account that I never use for anything useful. I could pay for Gabriella's grandmother's surgery." "Preston, that's a lot of money." "So what? What's the point of money if not to help people in need?" Martha was moved by the complete transformation of the young man who, months earlier, had tried to humiliate her. "Preston, that's very generous, but no buts. I want to do this. It's my way of showing I've truly changed." Gladys's surgery was scheduled for the following week, and Preston made a point of supporting the whole family through the process. He had become something of an adopted son to the elderly woman and an older brother to Gabriella. On the morning of the surgery, everyone gathered at the hospital to offer support. Martha, the 3 grandchildren, Arthur, Beatrice, Preston, and several children from the city school. "Teacher," said Gladys before entering the operating room, "if anything happens to me, take care of my Gabriella. She has a bright future ahead of her." "Mrs. Gladys, don't think about that. You're going to come out of this surgery better than ever. Promise me you'll take care of her." "I promise." The surgery lasted 6 hours. Throughout that time, the group remained at the hospital, taking turns to comfort Gabriella, who was terrified. Preston proved particularly good at distracting the girl, telling funny stories from his childhood and teaching her simple games to pass the time. When the doctor finally came out of the operating room, everyone stood up anxiously. "The surgery was a success," he announced with a smile. "The patient is doing well and should make a full recovery." The group burst into tears of relief and emotional embraces. Gabriella ran into Martha's arms, sobbing with joy. "Teacher, my grandmother is going to be okay." "She is, my love. and the two of you have many beautiful years ahead." The dance festival happened as planned, and it was an absolute success. The Lincoln Center was packed with people from all walks of life watching the performances. Gabriella's performance was the most emotional moment of the night. The girl, dedicating her dance to her grandmother, who was recovering at the hospital, performed a routine that brought the audience to its feet in ovation. "This girl has an international future," Beatrice commented to Arthur during the performance. "And she has a teacher who knows how to develop that future," he replied. At the end of the festival, Martha took the stage to give the closing speech. "When I was young, I dreamed of dancing on this very stage as a principal performer. Life took a different turn, and for many years I thought that dream was over forever. Today, I discovered it wasn't over, just transformed. Instead of dancing for audiences, I learned to teach so that others could dance, and that has fulfilled me more than any applause I could have received as a soloist." The audience was moved by Martha's heartfelt words. "I've learned that our dreams don't always come true the way we expect, but that doesn't mean we should give up on them. Sometimes they transform into something even more beautiful and meaningful." The applause was long and warm. Among the audience, Martha saw familiar and beloved faces, her proud grandchildren in the front row, Gladys already recovered from surgery, Arthur and Preston side by side, Beatrice smiling through tears, and dozens of students who had discovered in dance a new way of seeing life. After the festival, Martha's life settled into a new and rewarding routine. She split her time between the two schools, watched her grandchildren grow up with more opportunities, and felt professionally fulfilled in a way she had never experienced before. Connor earned a scholarship to a private school thanks to Arthur's connections. Chloe developed an interest in choreography and began creating her own dances. Toby, with the proper medical treatment funded by his grandmother's new job, was doing much better with his asthma and had even started taking an interest in music. "Grandma," Connor said one night, "do you regret not moving to Europe?" "Not for a second, sweetheart. My place is here with you and with the children who need me. But don't you miss being famous?" "Connor, I am famous. Famous to 50 underprivileged children who learned to dream through dance. Famous to seniors who discovered they can still learn new things. Famous to the three of you, who are the most important people in my life." 6 months after the festival, Beatrice organized a special surprise for Martha. It was a Saturday morning, and she had asked Martha to come to the club earlier than usual. "Mrs. Beatrice, why the rush?" Martha asked as she arrived at the ballroom. "Because we have special visitors today." When Martha walked into the main ballroom, she found a delegation of dance teachers from several states across the United States. Beatrice had organized a national gathering of dance educators, and Martha would be the keynote speaker. "Mrs. Beatrice, I wasn't prepared for this." "You were born ready for this, my dear. They came from far away to learn about your work and learn from you." Throughout the day, Martha shared her experience with teachers from California, Texas, Florida, and other states. She talked about her methodology, demonstrated techniques, and above all, spoke about how dance can transform lives. "Professor Martha," said a teacher from Miami, "your story is inspiring. How do you stay motivated, even in the face of difficulties?" "By looking into my students' eyes. Every child who learns a new step, every senior who discovers they can still move with grace, every teenager who finds self-esteem through dance, that's fuel enough for a lifetime." At the end of the gathering, the teachers created a national network of community dance schools, and Martha was invited to coordinate the project in New York City. "One more responsibility, Mrs. Beatrice," Martha commented. "One more opportunity to make a difference," her friend corrected. A year after that transformative night in the Grand Ballroom, Martha was running 3 dance projects at the same time: the club school, the city school, and now the state coordination of the national project. Preston had become her right-hand man in all the projects, working with dedication and discovering a talent for social administration. He had completely abandoned the frivolous playboy lifestyle and found real purpose in helping underprivileged children. "Martha, I have some news," he said one afternoon. "Good or bad?" "Good, I hope. I've decided to go to college for physical education with a specialization in dance." "Preston, that's wonderful. I want to be a teacher like you. I want to keep doing this work even when you don't need my help anymore." "I'll always need help, and especially people like you who know both sides of life." Lily continued to be the star of both schools. At 12, she already danced at a professional level and had started helping Martha teach the younger children. "Miss Martha, can I ask a question?" Lily said after a class. "Of course you can, dear." "Do you think I can be a professional dancer when I grow up?" "Lily, you have more natural talent than a lot of people I knew back in my professional days. If you keep working hard and studying, you can go anywhere you want. But what if I can't make it? What if what happened to you happens to me?" The question stung Martha a little, but she understood the girl's concern. "Lily, even if you don't become a professional dancer, even if life takes you down other paths, what you're learning here will never be wasted. The discipline, the perseverance, the body awareness, the self-confidence, all of that serves you well in any area of life. And you? Don't you regret not making it as a professional?" "You know what I discovered, Lily? I did become a professional, just in a different way than I imagined. Being a dance teacher is being a dance professional too." 2 years after that night that changed everything, Martha's schools had already trained more than 300 students. Many had gone on to careers in dance, while others simply carried the benefits of having learned the art into their lives. Arthur expanded the club to include a full cultural centre, with a theatre, music school, and fine arts studio. Martha became the artistic director of the entire complex. Beatrice, at 80 years old, remained active and had written a book about the importance of dance in old age, dedicating the work to her friend Martha. Gladys not only fully recovered from her surgery, but also became one of the most beloved volunteer teachers at the municipal school. She specialized in teaching other seniors, proving that life experience is a powerful teaching tool. Lily, now 14 years old, had won several youth dance competitions and received invitations to specialized schools. But she chose to keep studying with Martha, saying she didn't want any other teacher. Martha's grandchildren were all doing well. Connor, at 18, had won a scholarship to study engineering at a state university. Chloe, at 14, showed talent for choreography and dreamed of working with contemporary dance. Toby, now 10, was completely cured of his asthma and had developed a passion for music, playing piano at dance performances. Preston finished his degree in physical education and was officially hired as an assistant teacher at both schools. He had also started a serious relationship with one of the teachers from the municipal school, a young educator who worked with special needs children. "Martha," Arthur said during a planning meeting, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "We received a proposal from the state government to expand our model to other cities in the interior of the state." "What kind of expansion?" "They want to create 20 new social dance schools using our methodology as the foundation. And they want you as the overall project coordinator." Martha was speechless, from cleaning lady to coordinator of a state project in less than 3 years. "Arthur, this is way too big for me." "Why do you say that?" "Because I'm just a simple woman who loves teaching dance. I've never managed anything this large." "Martha, you turned 2 small schools into a national reference. You have everything it takes to lead a bigger project." "And my grandchildren, and my classes. I can't abandon what we built here." "You don't have to abandon anything. The state project would include our schools as the pilot model. You'd keep teaching, but you'd also help other cities create their own projects." Martha asked for a week to think it over, and during that time she talked with all the important people in her life. Her grandchildren fully encouraged her. "Grandma, you could help kids across the whole state," Chloe said. "Just imagine how many girls like Gabriella will have the chance to learn dance because of your work," Connor added. Helena was also emphatic. "My dear, you have a responsibility to share your gift with as many people as possible." Gabriella herself delivered the final argument. "Teacher, you always say that dance teaches us to fly. Now it's time for you to fly higher and teach others to fly too." Martha accepted the coordination of the state project, but with one condition: that she could continue teaching at least 3 times a week at her original schools. "I don't want to lose direct contact with the students," she explained. That's what keeps me connected to the true purpose of my work." Arthur readily agreed, and the project was officially launched on the 3rd anniversary of Martha's first night of dance at the Grand Ballroom. To celebrate the occasion, a special party was organized in the same ballroom where it all had begun. But this time, instead of wealthy guests watching an attempted humiliation, there were hundreds of people who had been touched by Martha's work. Present were students of all ages, their families, dance teachers from various cities, municipal and state officials, and journalists who wanted to document the inspiring story. 3 years ago, Martha said in her speech, "I walked into this ballroom thinking it would be the worst night of my life. I was prepared to be humiliated in exchange for the $3,000 I needed to buy medicine for my grandson. Today I look around and see that that night was actually the beginning of the best chapter of my life." She looked at Preston, who was in the front row beside his father. "I learned that sometimes people hurt us not because they're evil, but because they never had the opportunity to know a reality different from their own. When we give those people the chance to grow, they can surprise us in positive ways." Preston wiped a tear from his face, moved by being remembered so generously. "I learned that talent has no age, social class, or physical condition. I have 70-year-old students who dance better than 20-year-olds, underprivileged children who surpass wealthy teenagers, people with physical limitations who find in dance a unique way to express themselves." The audience listened in reverent silence, absorbing every word. "But most of all, I learned that dreams don't have an expiration date. They can fall asleep for a while, transform, take different shapes, but they never completely die. All it takes is one opportunity, one outstretched hand, one moment of courage for them to be reborn even stronger." When she finished her speech, the ovation was the longest and most emotional Martha had ever received. People cried, smiled, embraced one another, all moved by the strength of the story that had unfolded in that very place. After the party, Martha found herself alone in the ballroom for a few minutes, looking around and remembering everything that had happened. That was when Arthur approached. "What are you thinking about?" "About how surprising life is. 3 years ago I was cleaning these chandeliers, thinking that would be my life forever. And now? Now I'm a respected educator. I have the affection of hundreds of students. I see my grandchildren growing up with opportunities I never had. And on top of that, I help other people achieve their dreams. You deserve all of this and so much more, Martha. You know what moves me the most, Arthur." "What?" "Seeing that Preston became the good man he always could have been. Seeing that you discovered in philanthropy a way to use your wealth for good. Seeing that Beatrice found a new purpose in helping forgotten talents. And Gabriella, you're not going to forget your star student, are you?" Martha smiled. "Gabriella reminds me every day why teaching is worth it. She is the future of dance in this country. I'm certain of it." "And you? What's Martha Hardy's next dream?" "Seeing all these children grow up and become fulfilled adults. Keep teaching until these hands can no longer demonstrate the steps, and who knows one day, seeing a former student of mine performing at Lincoln Center as the professional I never got to be." "That won't take long to happen," said Arthur, smiling. At that moment, Preston approached the two of them. "Martha, may I interrupt?" "Of course, Preston. I've got some news. I proposed to my girlfriend and she said yes." "How wonderful. Congratulations. And we'd love for you to be our instructor for our first dance. It would be an honor." "There's one more thing," said Preston, blushing slightly. "We'd like you to be our matron of honor." Martha was moved to tears. "Preston, I don't know what to say." "Say yes. You taught me what it means to be a real person. There's no one else I'd rather have by my side right now." "Then of course I accept." They hugged, and Martha thought about how generous life had been in turning an enemy into a son of her heart. Preston's wedding took place 6 months later and was one of the most beautiful ceremonies Martha had ever witnessed. The newlyweds' first dance, choreographed by her, moved all the guests. During the reception, Preston made it a point to share a special dance with Martha. "This dance is different from the first one we danced," he said as he led her across the floor. "What do you mean?" "The first one was an attempt at humiliation. This one is pure gratitude. Preston, you became the son I never had, and you became the mother I needed to have to teach me real values." 5 years after that first transformative night, Martha was sitting in the audience at Lincoln Center, watching Lily's solo performance, now 17, and recently accepted into one of the best dance schools in Europe. The girl who had arrived shy and needy at the public school now danced with a technique and emotion that impressed professional critics. Her performance was dedicated to the teacher who had changed her life. "Miss Hardy," said Lily after the performance, "everything I am as a dancer, I owe to you." "No, Lily, you always had that talent. I just helped awaken what was already there. Will you miss me when I go to Europe?" "Very much, but I'll be proud knowing you're achieving the dream I couldn't achieve. One day I'll come back and we'll start a school together. I'll be here waiting." That night, Martha went home and found her grandchildren, now adults or teenagers, gathered in the living room. Connor, now with a degree in engineering, had landed an excellent job and helped support the family financially. Chloe was finishing high school and had already decided she would go to college for performing arts. Toby, at 12, was a talented pianist who accompanied his grandmother's dance classes. "Grandma, are you happy?" asked Chloe. "Very happy, dear." "Why?" "Because sometimes I find myself wondering if you missed the life you could have had." Martha looked at her 3 grandchildren, then at the photos scattered around the house showing moments from the dance schools, and smiled. "Chloe, the life I had was exactly the life I needed to have. Every difficulty prepared me to help someone going through the same thing. Every loss taught me to value what I have. Every tear gave me the strength to dry other people's tears. Even having to scrub floors for years, especially because I scrubbed floors for years, that taught me humility and brought me closer to people I never would have met if my life had been easy from the start." "Grandma is wise," said Toby admiringly. "I'm not wise, my love. I have lived just long enough to understand that happiness does not come from getting everything we want, but from doing something good with what we get." That night, Martha went to bed, thinking about everything she had lived through. From a humiliated cleaning lady to a respected educator, from a grandmother worried about providing for her grandchildren to a woman who watched those same grandchildren grow up with abundant opportunities. She thought about all the lives she had touched, the underprivileged children who discovered talents, the elderly who found new energy, the adults who gained self-confidence, and especially young people like Preston, who learned that a person's true worth is not in the money they possess, but in the good they do for others. Before falling asleep, she looked out her bedroom window and saw the full moon illuminating the small backyard where it all had begun, where she had danced alone for years, keeping in her heart a dream that seemed lost forever. Now she knew that no dream is lost forever. Sometimes they are just waiting for the right moment to turn into something even more beautiful and meaningful than we imagined at the beginning. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching us from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Martha made the right decisions? We would love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other exciting stories.